All rise, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Before the start of tonight's regular meeting, the board met in executive session to discuss some personnel issues. We have a presentation tonight. Mr. Hendrick?
Thank you. I have placed before you a time frame of a piece of American history that we found on a recent bird walk through Doylestown Township off the Greenway Trail. This is a section belonging to a swamp oak, white oak, that was cut, and a botanist from Morris Arboretum, University of Pennsylvania, was with me, and we started looking at it, realizing the girth of the stump, and we started counting the rings, and we counted over 200. We asked the supervisors if we could get the maintenance department to cut a section out. I carried the thing, I'm not carrying it tonight, but to Ann Rhodes, who is the senior botanist for Morris Arboretum. She meticulously counted over 300 rings in this tree. And she took 11 points. And I'd like to briefly just start numbering from 1 to 11. They represent July 4th, 1776, the adoption of the Declaration of Independence by the Continental Congress. Number 2 is 1818, Doylestown Township established. Pin number 2. Pin number 3, 1856, the North Pennsylvania Railroad opened train service to Doylestown. Now this is, I think, nice Americana history for our township. Pin number 4, 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation issued by Abraham Lincoln. Pin number 5, 1865, April 9th, Robert E. Lee surrenders to Ulysses Grant at Appomattox, Virginia, ending the Civil War. Pin number 6, 1903, Orville and Wilbur Wright piloted the first powered airplane flights at Kitty Hawk. Number 7, this is a good one. August the 26th, 1920, the 19th Amendment granted American women the right to vote. May 21st, pin 8, Charles Lindbergh makes the first solo non-flight across the Atlantic Ocean. Number 9, August 6, 1945, United States dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima, and then on August 15th, the end of World War II. Pin number 10, Neil Armstrong becomes the first human to walk on the moon, and pin number 11, April 22nd, 1970, the celebration of the first Earth Day. This was a joint effort. The maintenance people stepped up again and just did a nice job helping me to brace this. I believe this is really an important aspect of our township. The only thing that worries me, they are pins. And children have, oh, I wonder what this is, and pull out. But we don't want to count those rings again. If somehow or another some kind of cover could be applied to it, or I'm not that, good about it, I think it could be displayed here in the township, and the residents would appreciate seeing it. Second item, just briefly, on the April 25th Township Bird Walk, Kay Rock, who is a feature writer for the Bucks County Herald, joined us on the bird walk, and we had a common loon, which is not an unusual bird, but to see it in Central Park, very unusual. It was dead. We extracted the bird. We took it up to Peace Valley Park. They wanted it. They froze it, and they shipped it to the Academy of Natural Sciences because the determination common loons in New England, the Adirondacks, and the maritime provinces of Canada are experiencing a great deal of mercury poisoning due to fish, and they are primarily only fish eaters. So here again, from our own township, it's going to provide, I think, some kind of scientific data. And third, again, a little bit of history. I'm pleased to say that as chairman of the EAC committee, the Bucks County Conservation District chose our committee as the best conservation organization in Bucks County. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray. You continue to amaze us with your creativity. Thank you.
Joint effort, believe by everybody.
Thank you. And humble, too. Okay, any visitors or public comment? Okay, hearing none. Next meeting of this board is going to be on June 2nd, 2015 at 4 p.m. And the administrative offices will be closed on May 19th for Election Day and on May 25th for Memorial Day. The Home Run Derby is Thursday, May 15th, 5 p.m. to dusk at Turk Baseball Fields. Pre-registration is required. Please visit the website or contact our offices for more information. Barkminster, the dog show, is on May 30th at Central Park. Is it Central Park? Or is it the dog park? I think it's at the dog park. That's not. The Barkminster show is at the dog park. 10 a.m. to 12:30. It's free. The annual Doylestown Township Golf Outing is Monday, June 1st. This year, the outing proceeds will benefit Kids Castle. The 2016 budget, okay, yeah, we're going to do another budget work session very soon, June 4th at 4 p.m. Everyone's welcome to attend. Anything else? Next item on the agenda, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of supervisors on April 7th, 2015. Has everyone had an opportunity to review?
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Minutes from the road inspection, April 7th. I'm sorry.
No.
No. Was that 5-0?
Is this the minutes for the meeting?
April 7th.
Yeah, aye.
Aye,
I
okay.
just missed saying aye, so I was
Okay,
allowed to.
That's 5-0. Thank you. Road inspection, April 7th, 2015. Is a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I wasn't at the.
And one abstention. Budget work session notes for April 9th, 2015. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
One abstention.
2 abstentions. I wasn't here. Thank you. Public Works correspondence with regard to 36 Westway Lane.
Yes, we have a letter from a resident who, along with the
Works,
proposed...
I meant public water, I'm sorry,
That's
not
okay.
Public Works.
That's okay. Yes, they are requesting consideration of public water to be included with the sewer project when it's done. They send it to the board, but my recommendation might be that we forward this on to the DTMA and see if that's something they want to take up and make a recommendation back to the board.
Absolutely,
Okay.
I agree.
All right. Warrington Township Comprehensive Plan Amendment.
The Planning Commission took this up. This is a comprehensive plan change, and the Planning Commission's recommending that this matter be left to Warrington Township, as the property is located at Street and Folly and really doesn't impact directly to the township.
So we don't need to make any comment.
If you would, yeah,
You're not
unless you want later to.
You have the right to, but you're not obligated to.
Okay, we'll do that. Anything else?
No, not until we get to it.
Solicitor, do you have any report?
Nothing that we will not discuss later in the agenda, Madam Chairperson.
Chief, you have anything?
Nothing to report.
Mario?
Nothing.
Stephanie?
Yes, just real quickly, the DART, as you can see from the numbers provided, is doing very well, especially the Saturday service and the service to Del Val. In addition, they are going to be doing a two half-day sessions, strategic planning. In June, they'll be using our building. The next item I have is just an update on ChemFab, continuing to meet with the community advisory group, and they're monitoring the ChemFab building, providing information on air filtration and vapor intrusion, as well as the groundwater contamination and plans. They meet again in July, and that information's provided. We have a training request from Ken Wallace. He would like to again attend the PICPA Local Government Conference in Hershey in July, from going up the night of the 12th and coming back on the 14th. and that is shared costs with the DTMA.
You recommend that?
I do recommend that.
Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Just two more things real quickly. One, PennDOT has begun the paving project along 611, and also the Doylestown Bike Hike Committee has received the 2015 Heritage Conservancy Partners Grassroots and Community Leadership Award, and they'll be presented with that at the annual garden party on June 10th.
It's awesome.
And
Congratulations.
that's all I have.
Okay, thanks. Do you have anything, Ryan? Supervisor's comments?
Just one quick thing. I did see, I got a couple calls and also saw today in the event, just kudos to the Touch a Truck event. So heard that it was a great event. So just, good job to the township staff for putting that together. It seems to be a pretty well-attended event, and I know a lot of young boys and girls, but a lot of my friends who are young boys really enjoyed it. So.
Yeah, it was good. I was there with a young boy. It was fun. Do you have anything, Ken? Do you have anything, Rick? I'm done with
Yes,
you.
I enjoyed Touch a Truck. I had a good time, and it well attended is true. People come early, and the parking lots fill up very, very quickly. I do have two things. One, as many of you may know, supervisors went to PSATs a couple of weeks ago, and at PSATs they have seminars, and there's presentations from all different townships throughout the state. And I attended one on signage, which is usually something that comes up quite often. At least I hear about it a lot in the township from residents. And yesterday was our first meeting with the Planning Commission, and we discussed this signage draft ordinance, which is 20-some pages long, and it went very, very well. As I've said before, the Planning Commission's got top-notch skilled people. We had Judy Stern-Goldstein. We also had, of course, Stephanie. Judy Hendrickson worked on the Montgomery County planning, so we had excellent people and excellent feedback, of course, Tom and George and Ed, so I don't forget anybody else. So we're working on that. The board will probably see that in a few months, because we've had a lot of good comments, a lot more to look into, but we're working on sign ordinance, so you will be seeing that. And the other thing, it's that time of the year where things start popping out all over the place, and one of them is theft in your neighborhood. And I've talked about this before. If you don't have a neighborhood watch group, I think you should get your neighbors involved. And I just took a quick look at the chief's website, which is very, very good. I highly recommend looking through there. There's a lot of great information. But since January to February 15th, okay, that's what, 6 weeks? There's been a few thefts. Now, maybe these aren't in your neighborhood and you don't know where these are, but it was on streets it was on these streets. Old Nursery Way, Pinewood Drive, Veiled View Drive, Valley Drive, Providence Avenue, Commons Way, Constitution Avenue, Pebblewoods Drive, Putter's Place, Saddle Drive, Steeplechase Drive, Beulah Road, Bittersweet Road, Sandy Ridge Road, Stringer Drive, McCarty Drive, Windrose, and Ferry Road in 6 weeks. So if you don't think you've got an issue in your neighborhood and any of these streets is anywhere near you, I think you've got your head in the sand. And the chief's got a great program on Neighborhood Watch, how to get it started, how to organize it, and how to make it effective. So hopefully I got across to some people today. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken?
Yes, a couple items. Just to mention, on April 15th, the township was recognized for the Governor's Award for Local Government Excellence for Fiscal Accountability and Best Management. So, excellent award to win for the township. Shows all the good work that the township staff and the Ways and Means Committee is doing. Follow up a little bit. We had, Barb had mentioned, the April 4th meeting for the budget, and as if you remember, we started this process earlier this year than what we've done in the past. One of the major outcomes of this process was identifying 7 different topics that each of the Ways and Means Committee is going to take lead on and try to gather more data to come back to the next meeting. So by moving this process earlier in the year, it gives us more time to really focus on some of these major initiatives. Some of those 7 things are looking at the roads and how we're going to be able to stay on top of them and what we're doing in the future. Hike and bike paths, police staffing, EIT, building renovations, tax-exempt properties, and other revenue-generating ideas. So, again, some really good stuff that the Ways and Means Committee is spearheading to really bring focus to. And so they're going to gather that data and bring it back to the next meeting, which is June 4th, as Barb mentioned. So if anybody wishes to attend, please come and hear about that good stuff and offer some ideas. The other piece is about the EAC. We did celebrate Arbor Day on the 25th. with 3 different groups participating, and we ended up with like 30 different volunteers planting approximately 90 plants. So with all those hands, we were able to do it in a relatively short period of time. So it was a good effort by all. And then this past Saturday, we also had a crew working in the native garden, getting that ready to do the planting, which will happen in June time frame. Just to follow up to what Rick had mentioned also about PSATs, there was a number of sessions that I had attended and having to do with economic development, effective community engagement, road maintenance, which is a hot button for me. But one of the most interesting things that I learned there is that was one session on, it was titled 20 effective ways, or 20 things you can do to reduce costs within the township. And when you go through those 20 things, actually they gave us 24. We do 22 of the 24. And one of them we don't do because we don't have a problem with it, and that had to do about collecting unpaid bills. So we manage that, and that's not an issue. And another one is about how we consolidate consultant meetings and stuff like that. So my message is, for the things that were discussed at PSATs across the state from all the townships, these are things that we should encourage our township to do. We're doing them. So it's a good job by the staff to make sure all that stuff is being done. So good job.
Yeah, thank you. Sean, you got anything?
No, surprisingly, no. I have nothing to add other than the pollen count's out, if you haven't noticed yet, and the tissues
Not
I'm going
feeling
through.
very well.
But, other than that, no, I have nothing to add tonight. Thank you.
Echo what Ken had to say. We learned a lot out in PSATs. You're going to be seeing some of the things that we learned here, but in addition, we shared a lot of what we do in Doylestown. And I have to commend Stephanie for a great presentation on trails, and Karen Sweeney was teaching everyone how to do a dog park. So what we do in Doylestown Township, others are learning from us, as we learn from the folks in Elk and Lackawanna and Lycoming. So it's a fun group of people, and it is good to share. So you'll be hearing more about that. Where are we? Unfinished business. Oh, I wanted to say one more thing. On April 25th, that was the day of the planting. DAA did an amazing job with the Turk baseball fields, and the new fields were opened, and Ken was there. The new fields were opened over on Turk. They're beautiful. Go take a look at they look like regulation baseball fields. Absolutely gorgeous, and the DAA has a big thank you to all those guys out for taking care of all that. I'm sorry, you make one.
No, I'm on next unfinished business, that's not me.
Okay, graduate policy. They need a representative. I'm happy to do this. If anybody has a burning desire to do it, I'm happy to do this. Graduate policy studies, they need a representative from this board. The mission statement is to prepare leaders in developing policies that protect the planet and improve people's quality of life. Now, Ray, if you were a member of this board, you would be the most likely person, but since you're not, I'll stand in for you, okay? Is everyone okay with that?
I'm fine.
You do a great job.
I'll draw on you. All right. New business, Eagle Scout proclamation of Patrick Gallant, Troop 6. Is there a motion to approve this gentleman's accomplishment?
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
And the Scout of Honor, Court of Honor is May 30th at Doylestown United Methodist. And if anyone can attend, that would be great, but if not, I think I can make that one. All right, next item, the traffic signal approval applications. You have them in your packet. Is there any question about these applications?
No.
We can do them both together. Is there a motion to approve the one for Swamp Road and Pine Run and Upper State and Shady Retreat?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, we're going to send a vehicle to auction. 1996 Chevy 3400 truck with plow. Is there a motion to approve getting rid of this vehicle?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And then the bids for mowing of Triangle Park and Cirque Park 3.
I think on the table you have a revised memo from Dick. Do you want to review that with the board, Dick?
Yes. We had two items going on here. First one is Triangle Park somehow fell off the mowing list when we originally bid this, and I would like to get that back on the list. The present greenscape landscape contractor, who now has the bid for this year and last year, would like to do that mowing at $140 per mowing for the rest of the season. So I need an approval for that, and
Change order, right, Dick?
that would be a change order, yes.
How many times is he going to mow?
28 times per year. So he's obviously missed one, so it's getting a little cheaper.
Okay, so motion to approve the bid.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Madam Chairman?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yes, sorry.
In keeping in line with
Sorry.
In keeping in line with the township's need to keep the cost down, the mowing issue, I would like to urge or suggest the new Greenways Trail that has been installed is immaculate. It's great. Right up to the edge, there is a abundance of native wildflowers. There are vernal ponds right there. Could we please not mow in that trail? There is no grass there now. It's a herbaceous area. There are beet seedlings growing up, swamp white oaks, and if we can keep the cost of that off your agenda, that would be great. And I see no reason why it would be mowed. It's a wetland hiking trail, bike and hike trail, and I don't see, so if it could be eliminated from mowing, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, we can take that under advisory.
Okay.
That's my suggestion.
Okay, good. Thank you. Call question? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, you had another one? Is that it?
Yes, on that same memo, Turk Park 2, because the grass grows so well over there on Turk 2, it's always difficult for the children to play there, play baseball, to sometimes even find a baseball that's laying right next to them. To kind of solve that situation, DAA asked us to mow it a second time, and we had some conversations, and they agreed to pay for that second mowing. Township would pay for the first one, they'd pay for the second one, and it does have a cost at the moment of $300. The contractor has reluctantly agreed to make that second mowing, which would only be during the baseball season, basically. So it needs to be tidied up. We need the agreement back from DAA. What I'm asking you folks to do is to agree that we could keep moving ahead with that and try to make it work.
Conditioned upon DAA's commitment, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Motion to approve.
Move to approve. Yeah.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Keith.
Dick said,
Keith, can you have to take the mic? Otherwise, Ed will yell at me.
I'm sorry. Dick said Turk 2, and I think the memo says Turk 3. So I just wondered which one the motion was, the additional mows were being done for.
It's Turk 2 because where the baseball fields are.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, did we call that question? Yeah. Yeah, all right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dick. Let me flip my page.
Here at the fireworks.
Sounds of Summer, June 28th, firework contract with Schaefer Pyrotechnics. Yes. Is there a motion to approve this contract? It's the same one we do every year.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then the land development at the Pavilion at Doylestown, a sketch plan presentation. Gentlemen?
As the board knows, we, of course, have seen, heard, and been discussing this particular application for a long time. As you know, a sketch plan means that they're asking for comments. There's no approvals required, no approvals appropriate. And with that in mind, I believe Mr. Murphy is going to advise the board as to what the status is and entertain comments from board members as well as the public with respect to this land development application.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm here tonight with Phil Worsted, the project traffic consultant, and Scott Mill from Van Cleef, who is project engineer. And as Jeff said, project's been talked about at least for the last couple of years that I've been involved in, many years before that. But we were most recently in front of this body about a year or so ago when we presented a sketch and took comments, and you directed your planning commission to continue to work on it with us. And since then, we've had a series of 2 or 3 different sessions with your planning commission, the most recent of which was about a week or so ago. And what I thought we'd do tonight is run through the plan, highlight for you the changes, not that there's many, but a handful of changes that have been made to the plan since you saw it last. Have Phil quickly review the both internal and exterior traffic implications of the plan. And then I have handouts that we can talk about specifics of the scope of relief that would be required to implement the plan, and also sort of a menu of calculations, if you will, about impervious surface and things like that, ways that we could continue to reduce the amount of on-site impervious depending on what option, if you get that far, you would choose. So Scott's rendered up a plan, and it looks pretty comparable to the plan that you saw this time last year. One particular change in the plan has to do with the tenant mix. When we showed you the plan last year, there was a bank proposed in the location where Scott's highlighting it, sort of in the center of the site, Swamp Road, 263, Rogers Road down here. That bank site has been replaced by an urgent care and a Starbucks. As a result of that change, there were certain internal circulation changes that your staff recommended. This plan has been the subject of 2 separate reviews by Mario, Judy, etc., Dave Tomko, commenting upon various elements of the plan. And we've talked about those, and they're not appropriate to talk about tonight, but we have no issue with any of the review comments that we've received so far. This plan does incorporate those changes that required modification to the plan. So that's for another day, but we're fine with those. But in terms of the tenant mix, location of buildings and things like that, that hasn't changed. One other recommendation that the Planning Commission made last fall when we were there was to see if we could better apportion the parking associated with each of the uses, rather than trying to take credit for parking where the daycare is from, here's the daycare, over here. So we tried to reorient the parking lots a little bit, so almost entirely now each use has a self-sufficient number of parking spaces based on what your ordinance would require for it. So that reconfiguration has adjusted the numbers slightly, but not to any great degree. So those have been the 2 principal changes to the plan itself. One other big issue that we did talk about last fall with your Planning Commission, and which has continued forward over the last 3 or 4 or 5 months, has been the opportunity, if any, to provide public water and public sewer to the site. I think Jeff and Stephanie know, and Tom knows, that we've all had conversations, and the principal focus was reaching out to Buckingham to see if Buckingham would consider Doylestown Township as a bulk user or purchaser of water and sewer, so that Doylestown could address the known contamination issues that have been out there in that area for quite some time. So your staff, myself, Tom, et cetera, have all had conversations with the Buckingham staff, and it was ultimately concluded that Buckingham was not interested in providing bulk water and or sewer service to Doylestown Township. That opportunity, at least today, seems foreclosed from moving forward. So our plan still shows the community septic system and the community well, if you will, that would service those different uses on the site. And last week there was, or whenever we went with the Planning Commission 10 days ago, there was conversation about calculation of water usage for the daycare and things like that. Tom, I know, spoke at the Planning Commission about that. He may or may not speak about that issue tonight. But, again, that's an issue going forward that we would address. But the plan is unchanged in the sense that it still shows a community septic and a community well as opposed to a type of interconnection with Buckingham, which all of us would have preferred. So in terms of the plan, that's basically it. I'll come back and we'll talk about specifics of the variances and the impervious counts, but I thought maybe it would be useful if Phil could just review with everybody the overall traffic circulation, both on-site and on the boundary.
Thanks, Ed. Things really haven't changed much in the last 15 years with regard to this site regarding traffic, access, and so forth. So I thought I'd highlight some of the, where it is and how people are going to get in and out of the site, some of the improvements that are proposed and really have always been on the table with regard to this plan. As you go through the site, it borders 313, Rogers Road, and York Road. Access to the site on 313 will be via a right turn in on southbound, or I guess you would call it eastbound 313. It'll be a right turn in only that goes into kind of a road that bisects the site and provides access to each use within the site. On York Road, as you head from Buckingham Township into Doylestown Township up toward Warwick, the first thing you're going to come across is a right turn in, right turn out driveway just south of the CVS that's proposed. It'll be a right in, right out driveway. And then the next driveway will be a signalized driveway, which will be a full access driveway allowing rights in, rights out, lefts in, lefts out, and so forth, which will be the main driveway. It will have a traffic signal. Access along Rogers Road is dedicated right now as an entrance only to the site. There'll be no access leaving the site from onto Rogers Road. So it'll be a one-way into the site only. People heading to any of these uses will have to exit either the right out on York Road or the main access driveway on York Road. All these access points on 313 and York Road will be subject to PennDOT approval and a highway occupancy permit from PennDOT. The improvements along York Road are significant. It involves the interconnection with fiber optic cable of 3 intersections: 313, the site driveway, and Edison Furlong Road. So those 3 intersections will work in a coordinated basis. The other improvement is the construction of left turn lanes. The biggest improvement that's non-site related is left turn lanes on York Road at 313. So instead of sitting in the passing lane on York Road to make a left onto 313 in either direction, well, on Swamp to one side, 313 the other, instead of being in the passing lane, you're going to now be in a left turn lane. That left turn lane will extend along the entire site frontage up to where the left turn lane is at Edison Furlong Road. So you'll have a continuous center left turn lane from Edison Furlong Road all the way down and through the intersection at 313. So that's a nice improvement. They'll also have right turn lanes for entry into the site. Access within the site was pretty much Unchanged, just some mild tweaks if you're so inclined. The CVS will provide a drive-through aisle, which is pretty much normal, one drive-through lane. And mirroring that, on the other side of the driveway will be an urgent care and Starbucks, and that'll have a driveway with the same type of configuration. The one change is an access point along the main driveway aisle, which will be a right-in, right-out access point. So drivers can come into that first entrance, and they can leave at that entrance if they want. If they leave, they have to come out and go out the right-out driveway or turn around and make a right out from the other driveway or a left turn, or more than likely they're going to exit within the site and go to the main drive aisle and then exit the main driveway to get out. Circulation was enhanced at the daycare center, provides circulation around all the buildings, so there's for the retail sections. And that's pretty much it. The original plan, back in the day called for I recall, it's interesting, a 7-Eleven with gas pumps on the corner. And we've come a long way from that. And pretty mild trip generators regarding all these. So I'm happy to answer any questions regarding traffic and
I have a question. The 313 entrance, that's just an entrance, so you can't exit on it.
That's correct. Right.
Phil,
Yes,
the left turn lane between the main entrance and Anderson Farland Road, is that left turn for both north and southbound traffic?
Yes, it would be two-way, and it would be striped for Rogers as a dedicated left.
But north of the traffic, the main intersection would be just a dedicated left turn lane for 313?
For 313, yes.
How do you sign all this? And that's a lot of movement, a lot of, you can't go this way, you can only go that way. That's a complicated parking lot.
Within the parking lot?
Yeah.
It's
I know that's off topic a little bit.
Well,
but it seems like a lot of, you can't go this way, you can only go this way, only left turn here, only right turn there.
Well, the thing that's in vogue right now with these types of shopping centers is wayfinding signs to say, north on 263 and so forth, to give people that aren't used to it. But by and large, the people that are going to be going here are going to be used to this type of thing. So the Starbucks is going to be a repeat customer. CVS has a clientele that's going to be local and know how to get in and out of the site. The trick for any site is traffic that's new to the area and what they're going to do when they get in and out. So we'll have to provide some sort of directional signing to make it easier for them inside. And that's with any shopping center.
While Phil's here, not that he's going anywhere, but since we're talking about it, Rogers Road has been the subject of inordinate amount of conversation among the neighbors and staff. And Phil can talk about it, the one-way entrance in is designed to align with the entrance to the synagogue, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. It is presently dimensioned at 21 feet in width, and it's one way. Our impervious calculations contemplate it at 24 feet in width, anticipating maybe sometime in the future that it would be two-way. It's not intended to be two-way because the direction we've received to date is align it with the synagogue, one way in, that's it. So that's the way it is now, and that will be studied further as part of the overall PennDOT permit with all the other access points on 313 and 263.
Right. There's not much to study with it. Right now, at the township's direction, is one way in. And it's going to take any traffic that's coming from the neighborhood to come in, or directly, it's going to allow people to access or exit Temple G and come straight across and take advantage of the traffic signal to get safely out on New York Road.
Right. Which is the way it was always directed to us to be designed. And again, that's your call at some point, whether or not you want to maintain that configuration or do something different. But okay, what I have here, and which we discussed at the most recent Planning Commission meeting, is two different handouts. One involving just a comparison of the two plans, the one that we talked about last summer and the one that we talking about exclusively with their planning commission. And I won't go into much detail about it, other than to say that on the left column, it was a reference to the plan as of May 30th of last year, and on the right column, it makes reference to the plan that we're talking about now. And you can see that because of the tenant mix, there's been some 1,700 square feet additional building provided, minor increases in building coverage, less than 0.7% of increase in impervious, which we'll talk about, and a similar a tenth or so increase in woodland clearing. The distance of the different buildings to the adjoining residential properties back here are noted on the two plans, and the parking as well. So we're not talking about real appreciable differences. The second sheet of that handout I just gave you compares the various impervious calculations, and as I said at the outset, there's a menu of potential different things we can do to further drive the impervious number down. The bike and hike path across the frontage is 12 feet in width, which is your ordinance requirement. We've had some conversations with the Planning Commission and some suggestion of willingness to reduce it from 12 to 10 or 8 or whatever. But we've just tried to give you the opportunity here to take a look, if we reduced it by different amounts, what that resulting impervious would be. Same thing with Rogers Road, whether we keep it, reduce it in width, whatever, there's opportunities to reduce that overall site-wide impervious as well, recognizing, as we have from the beginning, that the ordinance permits a 40% impervious, and we're today, depending on which menu of choices you make, we're at 50 or so. We could get down to 48 or so, depending on how you do things. So that's stuff for everyone to think about. The other handout I have deals with the current variances that would be required in order to implement the plan that's already presented. Again, from the very beginning, everybody's known that we would need a certain amount of relief in order to do this. This is a surprise. We continue to try to winnow the list down. I think a year ago when we started, there was maybe 14 or so. I think today we're talking about a total of 9 different, but a couple of them are related to the same thing, and I'm happy to go through them just so we can highlight for everyone the areas that we're talking about. And I'll have Scott sort of highlight as I talk, and he can highlight on the site where we're talking about. The first one deals with the buffer. The daycare center is right here. Because the synagogue is residentially zoned but institutionally used, your ordinance suggests you need a buffer between the synagogue and the daycare. Well, we have a buffer here, and we have additional plantings around the basin, but whether or not technically we meet the width of the buffer between the daycare and the synagogue, that's one. Some of this stuff is technical, but I want to highlight for everybody what it is.
Just a question about that buffer. I mean, that's where you're having the storm water management section.
There is a basin, right.
Is that a buffer?
Well, there's plantings around it, Ken. It's not going to be planted in the basin, but there'll be a buffer planting around the perimeter of the basin.
So your buffer, when you say buffer, you could be shrubs, trees.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about.
Yes. Correct. The next one is, and a lot of these aren't new, the next one deals with parking in the front yard. We tried, because everyone recommended that we push the site forward away from the residences in the rear. So the buildings and parking are located closer to 263. So there are certain parking spaces here, piece here, and a little piece here that are within the 65-foot front yard setback from 263. And that's pretty much the way it's always been. In fact, we've moved it up a little bit recently, but basically that variance has always been part of the application. We do not show a buffer between these non-residential buildings on Rogers and the rear of that retail building. Just don't do it. So, and your ordinance would otherwise require it. And again, that hasn't changed either.
That's because it's zone residential, though occupied by commercial uses, is that right?
Right. We have a couple areas on the site where we don't have Loading areas or loading berths, again, not necessarily unusual, but the smaller retail uses don't require loading berths, so we don't have them officially designated as such. We have an issue with, depending on where dumpsters located, potentially there could be the need for some zoning relief where they are, but again, the smaller retail uses, typically they're not, a lot of them are going to trash compactors inside, but there could be dumpsters in the parking lot in a couple locations. And two of the more ones that have generated more conversation, those, one is the woodland disturbance, again, not new, but your ordinance requires 50% protection. We're at like 24%. Why is that? Again, as we push the buildings forward on the site, more of the trees are located in the front of the site along 263. We've sort of compromised by trying to keep as much in the back here protected as possible. So, accurate? Yes. Okay. So that's why that is. And then the impervious we've already talked about. Your ordinance permits a maximum of 40. We're at 50. We could be less depending on what choices we ultimately make. And then the other parking issue, same thing, we already talked about it. And then lastly, the zoning line goes like this. This is LI here. LI goes here, and then like that. This is the C portion. A corner of the parking of the pharmacy is in the LI district, and you're not supposed to. This building is in the LI district. Again, that's not new. It's been there before. So, a retail use in the LI district, which isn't otherwise permitted. So, that's pretty much the scope of the zoning relief that we've developed to date. And I said that the list gets smaller, and there's still opportunity for us to tweak it further if we can. But that's basically the overall plan.
On the sketch plan that was submitted
Right.
April 7th, there was 11 variances, and your document is identifying 9 variances.
Correct.
Did you get rid of 2?
We did. We did.
Which 2?
There's one in there that references supplemental regulations dealing with architectural elevations. We had a sort of a listing there. We might need relief, but we've talked to the architect, and we're pretty comfortable we can meet all those requirements. And the other one that was listed before that, when you look at the ordinance, isn't required is, the ordinance says you're to try to provide public water and a centralized sewer system if feasible. Now that we've made the effort and we haven't been able to identify a feasible opportunity to get public use, we've eliminated that as a zoning variance request. So those were the 2 we took off.
Hi. No, I just had a question. Why is there no buffer behind that retail and those other buildings that would face Rogers Road? Is there, because you have no ability to put it there?
We could do some.
There's landscaping proposed, but not required. I believe it's 30-foot wide buffer yard required.
We can plant there, Barb, if,
Yeah.
but
I was just curious. No buffer, but plantings.
not the full width buffer. Right.
No, go ahead, Ken.
So when you talk about your work for trying to have it serviced with public water and public sewer, when you say it's done, I mean, you've exhausted all alternatives to try to make that happen.
We have coordinated our effort with the township to do the most logical thing, which is to reach out to Buckingham right across the street. We can go 30, 40, 50 feet and then connect. And we spent a number of months trying to do that, and we were told that was not practical from their standpoint. That's the most logical, feasible opportunity for all of us to do that.
Is there an existing well on that site?
Our site?
Yeah.
I think so.
House that was at the corner.
I don't know if it's abandoned, but I think so, Ken. I think there is one.
Wasn't there one?
I believe there was a well installed by Lovering Mills by Sham Siddiqui years ago.
Monitoring well, maybe?
Yeah.
Is it still there? I don't know.
Yeah, Dick says, there was a
Still
well
there, Dick?
because it was supposed to be, I think, maybe offered to the DTMA at some point under the previous owner's plans.
Okay.
But you up to now, and I recognize this is just, the sketch planning phase, so you really haven't done any studies to look at the impact on having your on-site well and the impact on wells on the surrounding residents.
Right, we have an obligation to make sure we do that, and we will do that, but no, we have not done those detailed studies yet. That's correct.
All right, anybody have any questions?
I just have two comments. One, I'd like to read off of Mario's letter, just to keep everything in perspective. All these changes that you mentioned, Mario's letter states that the developer presented an earlier version of this plan to the board at their June 3rd, 2014 meeting. Since that time, the developer has downsized the daycare center and eliminated a bank, but they have also added an urgent daycare center and a retail foodstuffs building with drive-through service. These changes have resulted in an increase in total building square footage, an increase in parking, an increase in impervious surface, and an increase in woodland disturbance.
Yeah, that's why I handed out this, to quantify. Mario's letter didn't quantify the increases. This letter, this handout, the first handout does.
I just wanted to make sure everybody understood on balance the changes, and what Mario's letter is saying, they exacerbated some of them. The changes you made have exacerbated some of it. And second, I do appreciate this list of things to tweak, the 12-foot wide path in the current Rogers Road and the parking stall to change our requirement from 10 to 29. It's also fair to say you could tweak it by reducing the building size.
You could. That's probably not practical, but you could. I mean, anything's possible, I guess.
You just mentioned you were trying to tweak some things.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd bring that up. That's all I have.
So, but one of the other calculations was looking at your impervious surface calculation was based on the amount of woodland that you're preserving. So you're asking for a variance on woodlands because it's
Disturbance.
below. Disturbance, yeah. So building off what Rick was saying, if you change the building configuration, you would impact the woodland preservation, which would impact impervious.
Maybe. You could, look, we increased the buildings by 1,720 square feet total on the whole site. You could reduce that and not have any change at all in the impervious number. Just make a building smaller. The parking's going to change 1 or 2 spaces. It's not going to make a wholesale difference in, I think, the calculation.
The other thing that I noticed that on this plan, there's no mention of any trees over 48 inches. And there is a tree over 48 inches. So I'm just curious.
Well, we went out since the last meeting and tried to identify the tree that was made comment upon, and we couldn't find it.
I can show you on the map where it is. I know
Well, Scott
exactly
was
where
out
it is.
the next day. Scott went out.
You can see it from the road.
At the base, it's a 4.5-foot tree, but then it splits into 3 trunks. And our office went over the tree calculations and the total number of trees disturbed and whatnot with Boucher and James, and came to a consensus on the calculations of the trees, the area of disturbance, what was being disturbed, what wasn't. And the way that tree's based on it being 3 trunks is based on those 3 separate trunks. So there's, I believe, 2 18 inches and like a 20-inch separate trunk that makes up that 4.5-foot trunk base.
So where is the tree for those of us that didn't go look for it yet?
There's the existing dwelling here. It's located right around
there.
So is it still there?
Yeah, it's still there.
Well, that's good. It's going to stay there, right?
No.
Why not?
They don't even identify it as a 48-inch tree. They don't even acknowledge that it exists.
Because there are 3 trunks coming from the same, one trunk?
from the same base.
Man, that's Mickey Mouse.
Seems
That's
to me
Mickey
they
Mouse.
could tweak
to
the
me.
building
Come
and
on.
save the tree.
Yeah, save the tree, make the building smaller. Just a thought.
Okay.
Finger?
I have measured it, and it's at 4 feet and a half, where you have to measure it. Okay, it's 14 feet, 9 inches okay? It comes out and I believe makes it a 59-inch tree, not a 48. And it is, like I said, I talked to people and they said it's approximately 125 to 150 years old.
What kind of tree is it?
It's a sycamore.
Sycamore tree.
It's just like the one that was praised by, on the eastbound track of saving the sycamore tree. And there it is. It survived the fire that was next to it, a 7-alarm fire. It's been there for whatever, and they don't even put it on the plant.
Just for everyone who's listening, Jim Binger predates televising this meeting, so if for some reason we grandfathered him, he has to have to...
I will gladly go over this.
That's okay, we got it. Thank you.
Barbara,
Thank you, Jim.
As Scott, you mentioned that you, just one more note on the tree, was that you said you conversed with Boucher, right?
About a year ago, we went over...
About this
because there
specific,
was some
I mean, about this, since we're talking about the tree, we'll call it, right?
Right.
What is, that was the determination?
We didn't specifically talk about any individual tree.
Okay, I thought maybe that's where you were.
When we met, there was some discrepancy about the number of trees being disturbed or removed, which has an impact on the number of replacement trees. I think some earlier plans before our office was involved, there was a disagreement between what that firm said and what Boucher and James said. So when we came on board, we got together to iron it out and came to the conclusion or the consensus, an agreement that there was a total of 207 trees, I believe, that would need to be replaced. We looked at the overall woodland area on the plan to verify that what we were calling woodlands was the same as what they were calling woodlands, and that there is a consensus there on the amount that would eventually be considered disturbed. So part of the caliber inch disturbance conversation we had, it would have been that tree as part of the number of trees disturbed in each of the categories, the 6 to 12, 13 to 24, 24 to 48.
Right.
So we came to the conclusion on that chart, which is one of the plans, of the number of trees and whatnot.
I was just trying to address the comment what we said about what was, so your determination of it not being 48 inch, that was your calculation or your determination, right?
Based on our consensus, yeah, the chart didn't provide or didn't have any trees over 48 inches. And the fact that it's 3 trunks basically coming together.
No, I get that. I just was trying to get you guys. Okay.
Keith, you have to take the mic.
Jim Bingler, Furlong. Scott, how many other trees on there are in between the 28 to 48 inches where you're only allowed to take down 10% of them?
Based on our chart, again, as we discussed with Boucher and James, 11.
11, okay. And are you planning on taking any of them down?
Yes, to answer the question, yes.
So in other words, you have to ask for relief from the zoning hearing board for that also?
No, that's a SALDO requirement. The individual tree requirement is part of SALDO.
How about when it says that you have to keep 90% of them?
That's in the subdivision land development ordinance.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
But you're not going to...
The overall woodland requirement is in the zoning ordinance,
Yeah.
and we've asked for that, or we've noted that relief on the plan and are asking for it.
Okay. And we've talked about the impervious surface, several times. And really, when you first started out, it was around 60, 59 something, the impervious surface on this project. How did you get it down to 50 or 51 or whatever when you haven't reduced the size of a building? You've added actually a size to a building. Or is all this smoke and mirrors that you are planning on getting all this relief in order to get it.
I don't think it's any kind of smoke and mirrors. It's been on the plans. And I think Mr. Snyder kind of alluded to it, that the amount of woodlands you preserve the amount of woodlands you preserve on the site has an impact on the amount of impervious you're allowed.
That's correct. So if you don't get relief from the woodlands, okay, you're taking down 30% more woodlands than you're allowed to. That impacts your impervious surface.
Yeah, absolutely.
So really, you're not at 51. You're probably in the middle 50s for your impervious surface.
Depends on how you calculate it, but based on...
it's pretty simple how you calculate it. You can't calculate something that you're anticipating getting relief from.
They're basing it on that they'll get that approval. So based on that, so you're both right. You're right, because if they don't get it, then the calculation would be higher. If you do get it, then it's 50. So it depends on what your base is.
And there are other variances that also have an impact on the plan and the layout that could in fact impact other, aspects of the layout. So it's all one big kind of moving target that slides and moves as the design changes.
Yeah.
Anything else, Jim?
Well, no, it just surprises me. I've brought this up about this tree numerous times, okay? There's never been any discussion before about it, okay? I even asked Scott on Monday.
We're talking about the three-trunk tree?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he just looks at me.
Okay.
You call it what you want, it's a sycamore tree.
Well, now we know about it, so we're good.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Keith?
I spent over a decade living in Furlong. What's the mailing address of those businesses there?
These businesses here? Or
that whole complex, is that going to be Furlong?
I think that's up to the postmaster to determine that. I don't know.
Furlong.
Why is it the pavilion at Doylestown and not the pavilion at Furlong?
Doylestown Township? That wasn't my decision, but...
Last summer, when this plan was presented, there was a discussion about getting tractor-trailers in from Rogers Road into that development. What is the access now planned for tractor-trailers?
I don't know if you know.
I don't know of any tractor trailer from Rogers Road. That's the first I heard of that.
His question was, how will you get tractor trailers into the development?
But he said they were coming from Rogers Road. All right?
Well,
no, they'll come in
he
from
was-
York Road.
Okay.
Is the sewage capacity of the property sufficient, or is there going to have to be pumping?
That's something that'll have to be, designed and fully...
The system hasn't been designed yet, and until it's designed, we can't answer that question. I mean, we know the general location where it's going to be, but in terms of its operation, that's all going to be subject to your consultant's review.
And the Board of Health.
Yeah.
And DEP.
Yeah. Are there any plans for green roofs or solar panels? No, not that I'm aware of. Thank you.
Joe O'Malley, Rogers Road. For what duration of time regarding water depletion, water contamination, are they responsible for?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
If they contaminate, they drill a well, and they contaminate our wells, or they deplete our water supply, at what point are they responsible? A year, 5 years, 10 years, infinity?
Either you or me, I don't care.
Go ahead.
Well, typically, folks like Mr. Garten will require applicants to sign a well depletion agreement or well protection agreement.
Use letter of credit as security.
That requires security to be posted and would require that if any, there would be baseline testing done before the project started to determine your level in your well, and it would be monitored during construction, post-construction, and if at any time, I think in 5 years or whatever.
Normally, the tolling period doesn't begin until it's fully occupied.
Right.
So all the water that's being used is being used, and most of the time it's 5 years that the letter of credit remains in place. Obviously, it's not cast in stone. If there's a longer period of time that makes sense, then that can be imposed as a condition.
And during that period of time, if there was any adverse impact on your well that would be resulting from this, then the obligation would be to make you whole.
Okay, at this point in time, what's the occupancy rate for the property? Like how many?
0 tonight.
0.
The way we're going.
Okay, but you say you have the daycare center, you have this, you have that.
Right.
Well, of the entire property, how many tenants have you on board?
We don't have any formal commitments from any tenant. We just have expressions of interest.
Well, how do we know actually how many cars? You say you can limit how many parking places there are on the property.
Because the ordinance, based on the use, requires a certain number of parking spaces. The township ordinance says if you're going to have a daycare use, you have to have X number of parking spaces with that many children. Mm-hmm. Same thing with retail. Different types of retail have different parking requirements.
Okay. How many Starbucks have you gone into where you can just zip into a parking place? Not very often. You have to double park or whatever.
There are parking standards for that type of use, just like there are for everything else. And we're not looking for any zoning relief for any parking spaces. We have the full complement of parking spaces that the ordinance requires for those range of uses that we show on the plan.
Okay. Currently, now I'd asked Stephanie several months ago if she would ask you to post no dumping signs on your property on Rogers Road. Okay, and people, either residents or non-residents, are still dumping on the property. And it's right on the street. And I've never heard back from Stephanie, and there are no signs, no dumping signs. So I'm asking, will you do that?
Sure.
Anything else?
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. O'Malley. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Anything else from the board? Well, I think you're getting the flavor of the sentiment here for what it's worth. I don't know if there's anything particular that we need to say at this point.
Well, it seems to me there's impervious surface issues.
I need direction. We're not going, Planning Commission, and Tom can speak to it, they're done. They've kicked it to you guys, so I need you guys to sort of help us along here. If we're going to move forward, if we are, we need to get some sense of which way you want us to go, if any way.
So you're asking for a specific direction from us as to tell you what to do?
He wants to know.
The areas of concern, I think it's fair to say the impervious surface ratio is too high. There's concerns about the preservation of
I heard that.
essential trees, the tree disturbance, the wells, and the question of the integrity of wells. Anything else came to your mind?
Just the septic.
Well, that's Board of Health DEP requirements,
Right.
yeah.
All of those
I can't do much
variances
about
you-
that.
Yeah.
Well, it's evident, I'm sorry, Ken, but it's evident, we don't probably have to tell you, but I mean, I understand you're looking for directions, that you can tighten it up as best you can. I mean, if you have any latitude on any of these areas you're looking for relief, or, obviously, you know what you're doing, but you don't want to be asking for any more than you have to, so.
Believe me,
I know that's not how, that's pointing out like the.
That I know.
So that's not being terribly helpful, but.
Well,
We know you have the right to develop this property, and you've got a variety of uses, and I think it's not the uses, and I know you have two zoning areas, and you got a variety of uses. I don't think it's necessarily the uses, I think it's the intensity of all the uses together. And it's a lot on these two parcels. So I think what you're seeing or sensing from us is that there's a lot, there's always been a lot, and now there's a little bit more,
okay.
especially with urgent care and Starbucks. I mean, the Starbucks, we all know, as Mr. O'Malley alludes to, is a very intense use anywhere. So, I think as you guys are suggesting, you got to tighten it up a little bit.
Well,
Scale it down just a little bit.
But regardless of the use, as you said to Mr. O'Malley's point, whether it's Starbucks or whether it's Joe's Coffee, you have to meet the parking requirements, not so much the name of it or the particular vendor, but and I guess if there was a silver bullet that could solve all your problems, if it was take one building away, would you really get rid of all the relief that or a lot of the relief when it comes to impervious and when it comes to tree disturbance and all this and woodlands? Would that be it? That's something you've got to know from your
Right.
client.
If that was possible, I would have done that
I'm sure.
a long time ago, and I wouldn't be here.
You know what, economically or
Right.
it makes sense because this is business. I mean,
Yeah, okay. I'll take another shot at it. We'll see if there's anything we can do.
Better than it's been, for what that's worth.
Well, and I thankfully wasn't involved for the first 8 or 10 years before it was really more difficult, but
Making progress.
I think we've
not at the
made
finish
progress,
line.
but,
Is that a fair statement? Close?
Sounds like they want to save the tree.
okay.
3 trunks, 1 trunk. It's a tree.
Okay, we'll see what we can
When I
do.
drive by there this
I'm
weekend.
going to look for it.
Good. Mr. Bengler will be probably his arms around it. I'm not going to knock it down.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Next item on the agenda, consideration of the bills list for April 21st, 2015. Is there a motion to approve it?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Announcements. We're next meeting on June 2nd, 4 p.m. We're closed on May 19th for Election Day and May 25th for Memorial Day. Home Run Derby is Thursday, May 15th at 5 p.m. until dusk at Turk Baseball Fields. Pre-registration is needed. You can visit the site, our website, or contact the administrative offices. Barkminster Dog Show is May 30th at Turk Park 3 on Turk Road from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And more information, DawsonTownRec.com. Annual Dawson Township Golf Outing is Monday, June 1st at the Country Club. Registration deadline is May 15th. I believe it's 9 a.m. Shot time. And the 2016 budget work sessions continue on June 4th at 4 p.m. Everyone is welcome to attend. Seeing or hearing no other business, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Boys got here, think it's hot.